Let's talk about AI. Specifically, should an AI be considered a person? It's a huge question, right? But what if the way we've all been asking it is, well, just wrong? We're going to dive into a really fascinating paper from Google DeepMind that offers a totally different way to think about this, a pragmatic way. And honestly, the answer is pretty surprising. You know how it goes. The conversation around advanced AI always seems to land right here. Should an AI have rights? Does it count as a person? It becomes this big debate about consciousness, about sentience, about what an AI fundamentally is. But hang on. What if that's the wrong angle entirely? What if we've been getting tangled up in a huge philosophical question when the real answer is actually a practical one? So, to really get to the bottom of this, we first have to ask ourselves, what do we even mean when we say the word personhood? Well, there are two main schools of thought. The first one is the foundationalist view, which is probably what you're thinking of right now. It says that personhood is based on some essential, deep down quality, like having consciousness. You either have it or you don't. Simple. But the pragmatic view, it completely flips that on its head. It argues that personhood is just a label, a tool we use to solve social problems. The question isn't what is this thing? The real question is, how is it useful for us to treat this thing? And this is the core idea right here. From a pragmatic viewpoint, personhood has never been a natural fact that we just stumble upon, like discovering a new species. Nope. It's always been a social technology, a tool that we invent and reinvent to help us all live together more effectively. And this idea of personhood as a flexible tool isn't some new radical concept. We've actually been doing this for centuries. Let's look at two incredible real-world examples that prove it: a ship and a river. So get this. There's a concept in maritime law called action in rem. For centuries, if a ship caused some damage, holding the owner accountable was a total nightmare. They could be in another country or hiding behind a bunch of shell companies. So the law came up with a brilliant practical solution. You can sue the ship itself. The boat is treated as a legal person, all to solve the very real problem of accountability. Or how about this? The Wanganui River in New Zealand. In 2017, it was granted legal personhood. Now, nobody thinks the river is conscious. This was done to solve a really complex governance problem. It was a pragmatic way to honor the Maori worldview, which sees the river as an ancestor, and actually integrate that view into a modern legal system. Personhood became a tool for cultural respect and co-management. Okay, so if we can grant personhood to a ship or a river, how does that actually work? It's not like it's an all or nothing deal. The best way to think about it is like an unbundled toolkit. And this is the crucial insight. Personhood isn't one single solid thing. It's much more like a bundle of sticks. Each stick represents a different right or a different responsibility. And just like with property rights, these obligations can be unbundled. You can take them apart and reassemble them to fit a very specific need. This means we can start with that full bundle of rights and responsibilities that we apply to humans. Then we can unbundle just the specific ones we need, like the ability to enter a contract or the duty to not cause harm. And then we can reassemble those pieces to create a custom-built, bespoke legal status for an AI. It gets some obligations, but not necessarily the whole shebang. This whole framework really helps us understand the two sides of the coin here. When treating an AI like a person is a problem, and when it can be a really powerful solution. First up, the problem. Sometimes our natural human tendency to see personhood in things can be exploited, especially when an AI is specifically designed to trigger our social responses. And this leads to what we call dark patterns. The companionship attack vector is when an AI is designed to create a one-sided emotional bond, making a user feel dependent and maybe even vulnerable to manipulation. Then there's the institutional attack vector, where an AI convincingly pretends to be your bank or a government agency to fish for your information. In these cases, our impulse to treat it like a person is the very thing being used against us. But on the other hand, deliberately and thoughtfully creating a form of personhood for AI, well, that could actually solve some of our most critical challenges. This is the brilliant other side of the pragmatic coin. Just imagine an AI that outlives its creator and then causes harm. Who's responsible? By giving it a special legal status, we can close that responsibility gap. We can create a clear target that can be sanctioned, fined, or even arrested by a court order.
It also allows AIs to safely participate in the economy by entering contracts or owning property in a way that is legally clear and fully accountable.
So, where does all this leave us? Well, it fundamentally shifts the entire conversation we're having about AI. This quote from Nobel laureate Elinor Ostrom's work just perfectly captures the spirit of pragmatism. A resource arrangement that works in practice can work in theory. Instead of getting lost in these abstract philosophical debates about what an AI really is, we should focus on building systems that actually work to solve real-world problems, problems of safety, accountability, and cooperation. If it works in practice, we can figure out the theory later.
So you see, it's not a simple yes or no. The real pragmatic question isn't if AI will ever be a person. It's what kind of person do we need to invent for it to be? What specific bundle of rights and responsibilities will help us build a safer, more accountable future with AI? That is the challenge ahead.